for LAC in the Caribbean 2023. Today we'll talk about the third pillar on our call to action, which is advocacy, and also the tools Slow Food uses for advocacy. For the ones who joined us a bit later, please choose the language you wish to speak the session. Portuguese, Spanish, or English. You can find the tool in the bottom part of your screen on the globe. When you speak, also you can speak in the language you wish and the interpreters will interpret you. Thank you all for the work you have been doing in the LAC Slow Food, and thank you so much for joining our training session. I would like to say thank you to Caio Dorigon. You already know him, and he's traveling to Argentina. This is why he's not here today, but he collaborated a lot. Sara, Chiara, thank you. And all of you have worked to have this session. Thank you for coordinating everything before, during, and after our sessions. Thank you so much for everyone. For the speakers, today's speaker, they are going to share their experience, their knowledge, and how they act on their regions. And also the interpreters, they work, and it's so important for the communication. This training session about advocacy is going to be done in 2 gatherings, one today, another in May 18th. And many of you who are here have already taken part in 2 sessions accomplished in February. That was done by Slow Food Brazil. And many of you have contributed with your advocacy experience. So let's continue working on advocacy that we started working on February to see the LAC and the LAC policies. As an international workshop, our international offices have been working alongside with Brazil offices. In these 4 gatherings, these 4 sessions, we will have work groups so that we have this advocacy work on the topics that you chose. Today's session is about the experiences that are shared with some colleagues. And next session, we will be divided into work groups that we spotted 5 topics. And for the ones that hadn't chosen the work groups and wish to participate, please do so until the end of the week, so that we have time to organize the sessions and that you can be represented in a balanced manner. So we will ping in the chat again, the link is already there, so that you can choose your work group. The lectures will be recorded. You can see them later, and you can share them with your partners in your communities that couldn't be here. But if you have an interest on this advocacy, please share the links so that they can see it. And please open your camera so that we can interact, and mute yourselves so that we do not have any interferences. And if you wish to speak, you can raise your hands by using the tool, or maybe you can say in the chat so that we can have the comments. And also we ask you, when we have most of you connected with the cameras on, we could take a picture.
So I hope you enjoy this, and we can put in practice what we are going to learn from our colleagues from the several countries. And the speakers are representative of our international office for Latin America and the Caribbean, and from our network. First, I'd like to welcome and ask her to share with us about advocacy in general our colleague Rubén, who lives in Brussels, and he takes part of our office there, and he's in charge of the agroecology policies. The floor is yours. Thank you. Good morning to everyone. I'm from Spain, and I'm working on slow food. For about 2 years, I was working with farmers, and also in Brazil with the landless people, and that this work and experiences is really important. It's a pleasure to be here. First of all, I'd like to share my screen. Do I have to ask for permission first? I guess I need permission. Sorry, I got something wrong. Perfect. Welcome to this training about politics in Latin America and the Caribbean. First, I would like to move this, but I can't see it. So I'm going to play a video, and then I will start with my presentation. Now, there's this problem that we can't hear the video. This has happened like other times. No problem. It's just a song, like a. This is the first video. And the second is just to see what you think of political incidents. That raise our voice, mobilize citizens, communities, and we put pressure on the government to raise awareness. We launch campaigns and build alliances. Apart from informing the media outlets, let's retake the food systems, slow food. So now that we have seen the videos, Sarah is going to share the screen so that I can present to you the first slide. And then we'll start. We'll be able to start. Can you see? Can you see the screen? So could you please access slido.com with your mobiles or notebook? So you have to access Slido and write down your name. The first question. I see not everybody has access. So what do you understand by advocacy? I'm sorry, Rubén. I'm Maria Jesus from Peru. There's a problem with the audio of my computer. I don't understand what I'm supposed to do. Sorry. Basically, you access slido.com with your mobile or computer, and then there will be questions for you to answer. So we are gonna wait for everybody to answer. Right now, you can see on the screen the different answers given by the participants concerning the food rights. So for some people, has to do with food rights, for political levels, influence political choices through the civil society. And we can also see, like in general, for everybody, it has to do, it has a similar meaning, although different one. Some people had problems to access Slido. So I sent them the link through the chat. So you can click on the link and access the Slido. Yes, this is faster. Perfect, Valentina. Let's see what people are answering. So it has to do with influence on public and private policies, changing the system, influence the decision makers and social changes, require government action, demand for government action. Let's wait for some other answers and then we'll go to the second question. Oh, it's impossible for me. If you prefer, you can put your answer on your chat and then we can read later if it's best for you. I'll just wait for everybody to answer and then we'll go to the second question. Is to generate intervention and that benefits cultural, social, economic, political questions and in several levels. Is to promote the relevant actions. And there's somebody else writing, and then we'll go to the second question. Once the action of citizens to promote the politics and interfere with the politics and show the government how we want them to act in the sense. A series of action to influence positively. We are going to go, now it's second question. Do you have advocacy experience? Do you think you have experience with that? if you prefer. We have the link on the chat. Thank you, Valentina. So we can see that 8 people have answered, 12, 13. Most people said they do have experience. Let's wait for some more people to answer. $21. So yes, we can see that many people has experience with 73%. This is a good selection process, recruitment process. Yes, I can see that. Perfect. So I guess we can go to the next. If you do, what level have you taken part? Global, regional, national? What kind of experience do you have? Local, regional, local, locally, no. Perfect. So many people have experience both locally and regionally. So we are working more on the local level. Regional, national, global. All levels. Great. So now we know about advocacy and about your experience. So now I'm gonna share the screen and start my presentation. I'll start to keep briefly. I'll try to keep it short. All right, it's downloading. Sorry for that. Can you see my screen? Thank you, Valentina. So we are going to talk about the global strategy. So from 2020, after the call to action, the political incidents became one of the 3 slow food pillars. That you know that these are biodiversity, education, and political incidents. So we have then started a path to start working on that on a global level. So in 2021, we did a mapping and an analysis SWOT. And by consulting the members, and this analysis found that we had a lack of understanding and knowledge of political incidents. And so this was a challenge because people don't understand what advocacy means. So, and then it raises the interest to learn, exchange experience and the tools.
Then we defined a strategy in the document presented in the Congress 2022, regenerative action. A travel until good, clean, and fair food for everyone. And we needed to include agriculture policies centered in the biodiversity, and also strengthen the governance of our working incidents. Take advantage on our knowledge of the network for our work of advocacy, strengthen the work to defend our global movement through developing capacities to get effective advocacy in the base levels. In 2022, from this strategy, we defined the governance of the promotion of slow food, and we had the core group on advocacy. It's a specific group centered in the activism. On Terra Madre, last year, we had the advocacy, 1 for LAC and 3 on the Terra Madre pillars, pesticides, GMO, another about food sovereignty, and ocean and land grabbing. Our priorities of slow food in 2023 as advocacy is to strengthen our advocacy work, globally speaking. Now we have been working in monitoring the process until COP28, and also in the level of urban food policies. And our other priority is to empower the network through training sessions and exchange of experiences, so that we have the food to work advocacy in our pillars. In the slow food governance, who does the advocacy? First of all, we have the board members that are focused in advocacy. Nina Wolf from Germany and Dalino Lasco Cruz from Mexico, who is here today. We also have an advisor of advocacy, Shane Holland of the UK. In our advocacy core group, we have 14 members in our network. In LAC, we have Glenn Makuta from Brazil, Jerônimo Vilas Boas from Brazil, Liliana Vargas from Colombia, Marcela Ramos from Chile. In our staff, our advocacy director is Madeleine Costes. She is responsible for the advocacy international level, Cristina Grillo, and responsible for urban food policies, Yael Panzer. For slow food, what is political incidence? Advocacy means act to create an exchange, get organized to take measures that approach a problem, support a cause, defend an idea, in a position to change the political course. And why advocacy? First of all, it's because we believe the policies need to have access to good, clean, and fair eating for everyone. Eating food is political. All the world should have access to good, clean, and fair food. But not always is this way. Our food system is strongly conditioned by policies that are decided by corporations and government. This is why this is so important for slow food. Slow food demands, there are 10 recommendations, and we have developed different positioning documents, and we will talk about it in a moment. The tool is this, the idea to create food policy that are integrated, nationally speaking and locally speaking. The 10 recommendation of slow food, you can see on the right on our slide. First of all, we need to guarantee access to good, clean, and fair food for everyone. We need to provide priorities to people's needs, especially women, young people, native, and the more vulnerable one. We need to this is one of the main causes of the climate change. We need to be compromised to diminish the consumption of animal products. We need to reduce the production and the consume of animal origin products, and we need to reduce in half the food waste. Another two ones. When we talk about integrated food policies, what is this? This is one of the key points of slow food. Are those based in the interdependence, synergies, and feedback among environmental, socioeconomic, nutritional, and health issues, and which address the entire population, whether they are middle or upper class consumer or vulnerable groups who often face several food-related problems at once: poverty, malnutrition, undernutrition, environmental threats. These food policies require multi-stakeholder participation to achieve vertical coordination between different levels of government, federal, state, and municipal, and horizontal coordination between different sectors and government actors. More than bringing together or adding a set of actions from different agencies and level of governance, it is important that these actions and public policies are built to address the different food problems simultaneously and complementarily. The integrated urban food policies refer to policies that aim to deal with multiple food system challenges and require the establishment of bridges between multiple government departments and policy areas as well, apart from the creation of new governance bodies. The process of developing integrated urban food policies usually begins with an assessment of all food-related challenges faced by the population of a city and a full range of policy levers the city can make available to tackle them. Urban food policies often emerge through the meaningful participation of civil society and other actors. However, grassroots actions led by citizens and non-governmental entities do not constitute urban food policies per se. And it's important, as I said, to be led by citizens, not only politicians. However, these independent bodies are very important. Now let's talk about the slow food network experiences in LAC. Maybe you could share your screen and continue. Thank you so much, Rubén, for your presentation. It was very clear. Before handing it over to LAC colleagues, I would like to say something. I would like to welcome the participants that are here with us today. They are part of the Native Network in Mexico, and they are having a training session on advocacy. And a milestone in this process is their participation with ourselves. I would like to say thank you to Dani Nolasco as well, because she's a great person that provides participation of the Native people. Thank you for the Francisco. I will hand it over to Leidy and she will continue our presentation. We always start our sessions with a prayer moment, something more spiritual, so that we are more connected to this universe. We will share the message with everyone, and it was recorded before. I hope you can hear it well. Hi, everyone. The interpreter can't hear the video. I apologize. I say welcome, everyone. This is a sacred place. And this place helps us and benefits us with the sun and the rain. Here we have our offerings, and next Friday we will be here again. Greetings, everyone. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you for taking part in this training session with ourselves. Next session, we will be in the work groups. And if you are interested in one of the topics that are being led by the natives, you will be able to take part and choose the topics in the forms. Now, I would like to welcome Lady Casimiro, and she's talking from Cuba. She's a great activist of our movement in the Caribbean. And now she's in charge of these topics in the Caribbean, and she performs interesting work that has to do with advocacy, agroecology, and food sovereignty. Thank you so much, Lady. Thank you, Valentina. Good morning, everyone. I do not have much time to share my experiences here in Cuba, but let me try doing so. Sarah will share my presentation. Can you see it? Yes, we can. It's perfect. Thank you so much. Maybe, Sarah, you could only have in the presentation mode. Thank you so much. Great. Next slide, please. So in Cuba, there are many aspects in this background shared with us. It is tied to cultural aspects as migration, traditions, all the topic about our land that's not being worked. We have idle land. And there's a dependency on industrial agroecology. And also input that is tied to import-export. And also food price has been rising. And in Cuba, we have a block. We have food waste also. And part of what is produced is wasted. We have sexist production in the agroecology sector. And we need fast solutions. We are a mass of people, a body of people that have been working lately, and now we had the chance to present and we could present this topic to ministers and the president. And in Cuba, our sustainable work is a part of our land. Let's see the next slide. From this explicit demand, we could have an acknowledge of the need of a public policy in Cuba for our agroecology. We have been working with this agroecology concept that you can see on this slide. In the next slide, as a practical science, agroecology responds to these 4 pillars on our food sovereignty plan since 2020. We agree that on this plan, our food sovereignty and nutritional education published in Cuba, we need support into methodology into agroecology. This is why we need complementary policies. On these 4 pillars, we diminish the dependency of import of food And we need to diminish the food waste. We need to consolidate the food system in the territory and mobilize education systems of culture and communication to strengthen nutritional education.
So with the agroecology politics that comes following by a decree and a law, which are being discussed, we aim to reach a legal space so that this right can be part of our daily life, and we can have an holistic focus to implement different technologies in the circular economy and to improve the conditions of the farmers and consumers, and also have an impact on education. That's why what are we promoting here? This is something to be institutionalized, to have an assistant group to promote the agroecology in Cube, and also that the politics are coherent with other policies that have been approved. And also this group of experts will have a local link to improve the critical mass in concerning the scientific topics. Everything here is really depressed. So we need to boost this process, to motivate people, to mobilize, so that we can improve life conditions, because there are extreme conditions like the children who are away from schools. We have to mobilize on a local level and on an ecological level, so that we can improve the place where the people live, so that it's more attractive, and we can enhance the agroecological tourism. So we're also promoting financial mechanisms to access so that the local citizens have access to agroecological processes, and in a participative way. And these different agroecological processes can promote this inclusion, the citizen inclusions, also in the economical sense. And this participative system is really relevant as a coalition. On a local level, it raises a lot of interest. And this can be a pioneer measure by promoting the agroecological tourism, so that people can recognize, can acknowledge the country as a destination. So when we promote the tourism, people can be aware of our agriculture, of our rural processes. So this can be profitable. And this has to do with the promotion of the country. But it's important that this gastronomic and cultural story, all this should be part of the attractives. And all of this can be used to improve our agroecology, the access to food, because we are promoting physical and economic access. And maybe we can get some flexible policies in the sense. For example, and also that to improve the conditions of the farmers. So from that, there's so much to tell about it, and so much we could exchange, because that we have deep issues here. And there's a broad range of themes that we could discuss that has to do with laws, decrees, culture, and they are all interconnected. All this could be gathered in a policy that could be institutionalized in Cuba. And apart from adding the scientific knowledge for the success of our sustainable agriculture based in agroecology, and this all would be the methodological support for the implementation of this food law that is being discussed in Cuba. So in case you have any doubts or questions, we still have 10 minutes to answer. Thank you. Thank you, Lei. Thank you for your presentation and for being so clear and objective and to express Cuba's experience. We could also have we are going to share the presentations. I'm gonna leave the questions to a later moment. And now we'll have a Chilean speaker. Marcela has just been elected as the new president of Slow Foods Chile. So I would also like to congratulate her for that. And she's gonna tell us about her experience in Chile as the member of the assembly. Thank you, Valentina. First, I would like to ask if you are all listening to me. Can you see my screen? Yes. So I would like to thank you to the organizers of this activity. This is something we would have to promote all the time so that we can share communication, we can reflect on our activities, and this is urgent. And it's important to be here right now with colleagues from several countries to reinforcing this network, which is so necessary for to reach our goal. So I had this presentation ready for Terra Madre, and I did some adaptation so that you can see it today. I'm Marcela Ramos. I'm in Chile. I'm in the south of Chile, in Chiloé, the comunidad da Melga, and I'm part of the Slow Food Board of Directors, and I have been just elected as a chairman, and there's a lot of work, advocacy, representation, but this is a possibility to share with you and to be in so many places at once. And collectively, I say we collectively, because we are all working together. And I gave the name of my community, La Milga Chiloé, to this presentation, which has to do with the constitutional right to food, to good, fair, and clean food. Before that, I'd like to share with you just a preface of the constitutional text we have lost. we all, Chilean citizens, sorry, made by several nations, we make part of this participative and democratic process. This is how it started, but it was denied in September last year. And now we have another process being discussed. A little history for you. In 1973, there was a military coup from the right party. And this has led to a political and physical elimination of the left ideology. In 1980, there was a constitution approved by people vote, but it was really illegal. Some people voted twice. So this constitution was imposed to us, and its result would be take us to the neoliberalism. The people who fought for the environment and for our territory, you can see them in several mobilizations, demonstrations throughout the country, and we have always defended our territory from industrial interventions, corporative interventions. We are always ahead of that. Finally, around 2018-19, the Chilean students, they left on streets to demonstrate what our country was, what was going on in our country. And they started this movement throughout the country, that lots of demonstrations and mobilizations and assemblies around the country about the defense of our territory and to fight against. I'm showing you some photos of this situation, concerning the damages caused by the industrial pollution. This specifically is the salt industry that has made the South Chilean a whole contamination place. Another thing that led to this problem is that many people who are ruling the country are financed by companies, by corporations. So the supermarkets, the drugstores, everybody belongs to the same family. They belong to the same owners, and they have investments in different industries, and these are the ones who finance our politics. So we have, and they have been caught in several frauds, but they are forgiven and do not receive any kind of penalty for that. So when a poor person makes anything wrong, suffers for everybody. So
And finally, we could have the politicians in Chile to agree with that. And they proposed something to the population. Here you can see the president and his team, all the political class agreed to that. In order to solve this social problem through writing a new constitution, there was a plebiscite to vote on the constitution. It was asked the people how this new constitution would be done, through a constitutional convention or a mixed constitutional convention that would be done through the Senate, the Congress, and other politicians. The first option was the winner by 80%. 80% of the voters chose. They prefer that this new constitution would be written through a constitutional convention with all the elected members. There was the elections in 2021, and this is how it was distributed. These were the elected ones that are on this slide. The most important elections, there was a great amount of people that didn't take part in the political movements. They were related to boards that took care of basic rights, water, feminism, and many of our mates that were native, that pertained to native bodies. It was a very diverse group of people that would write the Constitution. And it was very important. The first women president, Madam President of this constitutional body, she was a representative of the native people. And this was so meaningful. This on the slide is Carolina. She is the previous president of Slow Food Chile. Carolina, other people, and myself were actively participants. We presented popular initiatives that finally was present in the Constitution articles that was approved. And also our participation on the network is on our page. And we could talk about food, about seeds, water as well. We have worked with Anamuri, which belongs to the Rural and Native Women Association. And we talked about social economy as well. We proposed talking about articles. We had a series of talks, series of dialogues in many areas, the food rights, as you see on the left. And there are many things to talk about, and my time is over, but there were training sessions, there were talks that we made in person. There's no text, but this is our route. There are many things to improve. We had a lobby, an in-person lobby. And we hope we can do everything we want here at Slow Food. There's a long list of articles in our Constitution that could serve ourselves as an organization. And we will share this presentation so we can read afterwards. We are not legitimate right now. There are people that are not supporting us. And if there aren't any citizen participation, we need to we need to avoid having them. So we need to have people who support us. Thank you so much. And I'm sorry for taking so long. Thank you. Thank you, Marcela. If you can share the presentation afterwards, we appreciate it. And also share your contact information so that people can get in touch with you. The Constitution wasn't approved, but thank you. We congratulate you on your work in Chile and many other organizations that are moving forward. And let's monitor the next steps in Chile. Now I'll hand it over to our Brazilian friend, Glenn Makuta. Glenn is a member of Brazilian Slow Food Network. They have a national association in Brazil as well in Chile. Glenn is the responsible person to articulate in Slow Food Brazil, along with other OSCs. I mean, civil society organizations, CSOs. And he is going to have the word now. Thank you so much, Glenn. Go ahead. Good morning, everyone. How are you? Excuse me to speak Portuguese, okay? I have been trying to share my presentation with you. Great. Let me know if you can see it. Yes, we can. I'm going to share with you my experience. It's a specific experience about Hunger Tribunal. So I'll provide some context behind it. On 2019, Jair Bolsonaro started being a president in Brazil. He finished CONSEA, which is the National Council of Food Security. This is the main space we have to control food policies. Through this council, we could have this fight that was being said about food rights being guaranteed in our constitution. This happened in 2019, and many other structuring policies were put into practice. And Brazil, for the first time, had disappeared in the hunger map in 2014. But from this coup d'etat that happened, that removed Dilma Rousseff, the elected president, there were many things, many public policies that were removed at that time. Under this scenario, we had a very complex situation in Brazil. Civil society organizations organized themselves so that they had a collective inaction to ensure the sovereignty and food security would be discussed. One of the main attributions of this council, CONSEA, is the one to have a popular conference being made every 4 years. When this national conference would happen, the president at that time dismantled this organ. So CSOs got together to try to accomplish this conference. We tried to do so before the pandemics. We didn't know the pandemics was coming. But we could mobilize. We could get together to have a conference. We would like to do it in person, but it was difficult because of our budget. These organizations that you see on the screen, including Slow Food Brazil. They are part of this popular conference. We have important partnerships as Brazilian Forum of Food Safety, Movement of Landless People, farmers movements, and others. They are very relevant in fighting against hunger in Brazil. And hunger situation was being aggravated badly during the pandemics. We had a hunger scenario that was being worsened since 2016, but during the pandemics, we had a critical scenario. This is one of the scenes that were very emblematic, which is the bone lines. People try to get these bones to food, to have food. They were enormous lines that would try to get food from these bones. Civil society organizations got together in solidarity. It was common to have social movements providing food for the population so that they could ensure people could have some dignity. And people deleted official data. At the end of 2020, we had 19.1 million people in food insecurity, which is chronic hunger. In the beginning of 2022, we had 33.1 million people that didn't have anything to eat. If we consider food insecurity on a medium and mild level, this number will be more than half of Brazilian people. 100 million people, more than 100 million people. So these numbers are extreme. These are people that couldn't have any meal in the course of one day. These are the severe level is the one that doesn't have anything to eat. A popular conference mobilized to have a hunger tribunal, something symbolic, as popular tribunals that we could see in the world. We had a permanent tribunal to fight for our biomes. So we used this tool in order to denounce the hunger situation in Brazil. We could denounce federal government as an important actor that caused the hunger. And this needed to be divulged, publicized in the world. In Brazil, we have a tool, a legal instrument, which is when public power violates constitutional principles that are considered fundamental: right to life, right to health, right to food, things like this. These are constitutional rights. So federal government was violating a series of fundamental constitutional things, and it should be punished for that.
So this hunger situation was associated all this horrible condition of unemployment, under the isolation, illegal livings, street risk, criminalization, hunger, the increase of food prices. It's several events that were worsening the hunger. And the state should make sure that the population don't starve. So apart from their lack of inaction, they also acted against the population and the hunger. So several politics of familiar agriculture empowerment have been deactivated. The access of edible water was also compromised, and all the politics of agriculture reform statistics shows that poor Black and women were the most affected by this hunger condition. And also the traditional communities, indigenous, also suffered and were really vulnerable. Meanwhile, the political project was focused on the agribusiness expansion. So we had a situation of starvation in population, while agribusiness celebrated record crops. Recurring successful crops with gigantic resources from government, while public policies would make sure that Brazil left the hunger map. These movements have all been inactivated. And this event we created within another program, which is the Journey of Convergences, and the Hunger Tribunal was seen by 3,000 people who watched this trial alive. And it was made as if it was a regular trial. There was a prosecutor, there was experts. We also had like a UN Michel Facri, Representative Michel Facri. We had the judge and the defendant was the government, was represented by Jair Bolsonaro, the former president. So it was shared with together with several arguments. The defense lawyer involved like government statements, as we could not, as we have no dialogue with government. The public power has closed the doors to us. We invited them, but it was no use inviting them because they would never show up. So based on that, there was a penalty for the Brazilian government. The government was guilty, was considered guilty. And after that, after this trial, we were able to mobilize some organizations, some of civil society, social movements, to record that that penalty, and it went for an upper instance. So this trial happened in September. Theoretically, the legal power was supposed to answer to that, but this has never happened. I forgot to mention that apart from the conference organizations, within this trial, several other organizations took part, like Black Coalition, who fight for the Black people rights, and also the people who defend the small farmers movement, the landless workers from Bahia, and several other organizations that took part of this conference. This is all really important to let you know that these big fights, we can't fight alone. We have to identify our allies and build connections, stronger connections. In Brazil, we have been taking part of several collective movements in order to make these fights strong, because sometimes they are totally invisible. They don't show up on a mainstream mass media. So the civil society has to organize themselves to achieve that. This photo you are seeing was taken on December 10th, the Terra Madre Day. It's the International Day of Human Rights. So it was a really happy day and a meaningful day to perform that and to make that photo. So I just would like to, I'm heading to the end now, just to say that we are improving now. For sure, everything that has happened during the last 4 years, the setbacks are really hard to be overcome, but we have reached a way, and luckily now the state values the civil society. So there are several, so it's opening a several of opportunities and doors so that we can change the country's reality, which is unfortunately is pretty similar to other Latin American countries. Thank you. Thank you, Glenn, for sharing your experience. And luckily now, after Terra Madre, in Brazil, we have another government, and this dialogue on the political incidents can be expanded again. We are running out of time because we started late so that everybody could join in. So now we are opening the space for questions, comments, and contributions. I have to ask you to keep it short so that we can clarify all doubts and questions. And I'd like to read a comment in the chat from a colleague who had to leave the meeting. Great, the presentation. I would like to propose some movement of incidents regarding the Diversity 3030. So that we manage better the agriculture and agriculture lands instead of listening to fake suggestions. And about the WCC 20, we should promote practical, sustainable practices. Has anybody would anybody like to ask something? Is everything clear, or have you understood everything or nothing? I'm Maria Jesus from Peru. Yes, go ahead. I'd like to comment, to make a comment. It was really enriching, all the experiences we have heard here, Marcela, Glenn, and it was a great opportunity to meet him in Terra Madre. We are working so that all groups, particularly in Peru, for us, it's a new experience. I hope we can keep on working the way you are teaching us now. And make our authorities know that it's important to work with healthy foods and that people have healthy food habits, particularly in schools. Here in Peru, we have the highest rate of children malnutrition. So I'm thankful for all this information so that I can keep on working and doing my work on my side. Thank you, Maria Jesus. We hope we can follow these processes because we are just in the beginning of this training cycle. There are many others ahead of us. And I hope we can, other people from this network can join later, and at each session, we have more and more people gathering so that you can serve as a multiplier in your communities. Anybody else has a question or doubt? Otherwise, Rubén is going to share with us the tools we have in the European Union, but maybe some of his ideas may be applied to your context. Anybody else? So okay, we are going to go ahead now. Rubén, I'll give the floor to you. Thank you all. Great, Valentina. I'll try to keep it short because we were late. We started late. I'm gonna share my screen now. And before talking about the tools, I'm telling about the factors. Within their organizations of civil society, which in a way or another, they influence the political incidents. I will tell you of something of these factors, the factors that determine how slow food organizations can influence on the politics. First is the knowledge on how the state works. So for us to take part, we have to know how it works, to know how to access and the doors for us to enter the state and the city and the government. Another thing important is to interact with government and establish alliances. And when we talk with organizations, so that we can have a bigger impact. Another really important fact is to keep clear the mission goals. So if our mission is clear, so we have it as a north to our actions. And also to get to know the political context so that we can make an objective analysis and the technical planning. Also key research We have several experts, and we have a lot of knowledge in our network. So it's important to use them to have a bigger impact, a political impact. Also to promote these trainings, to have scientific analysis, expert analysis. This information is really important. And also the financial means, because if you don't have money, how can we put in practice these activities? Another factor, it's important to analyze our context, the context we live in, so that we know how to act. A key point here is the democracy. The government should be open to the respect of human rights, like expression rights. Otherwise, we can't have any advocacy. And also the promotion of cultural education means. So it's key to have all these actions. Also, democratization of regions in different levels. The democratization of the access of media outlets. Who's speaking? There are several media outlets available. And this can be determining to how we communicate our actions. And another, and the last one would be transparency, because it's important that all doors are open, or means that help us to find the better way to act and to get political influence.
Let's talk about different methodological steps so that we have advocacy done. For example, the first of all would be identify and analyze the problem. We need to know the problem and why we want to solve it. The second is the proposal elaboration. What do we want to achieve? What are our ambitions? What is the objective of what we wish to achieve? And the space of the decision. Who are the people that are going to take the decisions? What are the influence channels? What are our threats? We need to analyze, to have a SWOT analysis done. What are our strengths, our weaknesses, our opportunities, and our threats? We need to know that. And sixth, we need to formulate influence strategies, how they can be done. How can we make decisions creatively? We need to define the strategies to have influence in the make decision process. And we need to have this activity planning done and have continuous assessment. What have been done? What we could have made and why? Here, there are some topics that we could do as a network to have advocacy done. We have to act and promote laws and public policies that ensure good, clean, and fair food for everyone. We need to support farmers and family agriculture, and also the consumers with clear information. We need to work as a network to create alliances for this change as well, and other topics that were on this slide. Locally, we need to see what can be done in order to have an influence. These are some examples that our friends brought. And the first step to have advocacy locally speaking, we need to make sure to see if in the county there's a department of food, and if there isn't any, which are the departments that deal with food. For example, health departments, agriculture, commerce, urban, education, and things like this. We need to inform the people responsible for the county about the activities done for our slow food community. We need to invite competent people of the county to participate in the events, activities being organized to show slow food work. We need to identify and mark the problem. What is the question that needs to be approached, and what are their demands? For example, agricultors, farmers do not have access to the market, or their children don't have good food at school. Why that is happening? What's the solution that can be proposed? And it's important to have association with people and organization. A relationship with the press is very important as well. And what are the tools that we have to use? There are the links on the slides that we can click on it later. Follow the link and read the documents. We have positioning documents and other political documents of Slow Food International. There are many topics: agroecology, animal welfare, MGOs, soil, biodiversity, climate change as well, so on and so forth. And we need to see all these topics not only with an European focus, we need to be more global. All these documents were adapted for the network. You can use the document of slow food positioning of slow food Brazil on agroecology and other documents. Some of them, as I said, were adapted by Slow Food Brazil on agroecology. There are documents on animal welfare, on seeds, and other documents were also adapted by Slow Food Brazil. There are materials created on Terra Madre 2022 on activism, and there are videos in Spanish and English on pesticide and MGOs, food sovereignty, ocean and land grabbing, and other documents that compile the experience of the network on these topics that I already described. There are also videos. What is advocacy? How can we change food policies? And also campaigns on the network on specific topics. For example, Mexico without transgenic, raw milk, also artisanal raw milk from Slow Food Brazil. And there are other tools within European focus, but they can be useful as inspiration. Advocacy newsletter of Slow Food Network. You can have different pieces of news on European advocacy. We also have calls to action on advocacy from the Brussels workshop on European food policies. And there's also a podcast, Slow Food Goes Brussels. It talks about European topics on transgenic, biodiversity. We also talk about COP. It's very interesting. And the last one, the European campaigns being accomplished. ECI Save Bees and Farmers. They are talking about pollinizers and the bees. And it's very interesting campaign being organized. And the LAC network could use this as inspiration. I have finished my presentation. I'm not sharing my screen as well. If you have any questions, comments, I'm here to solve them. It's super clear, apparently. I read a little bit fast. I'm so sorry. Good. Excellent. Luisa, is your hand raised? Yes, I have a generic question. I would like to know if we have a website to share successful cases on advocacy. Good question. From Europe, for Europe, we do not have a website, and it would be very interesting to have one so that we could motivate everyone to see successful cases, because we always talk about the negative part of the problem and we never talk about the solution. It would be a great idea. We will ask. And if we do, I'll share it with you. Oh, thank you so much. Luis and everyone, as you know, from these 3 pillars that we talked about, biodiversity is something we have been working on for over 30 years. And we are working to food for some decades. On policy, on advocacy, we have been working less time. And Terra Madre 2022, we allowed being able to work more systematically. In Slow Food Workshop, there's advocacy in Europe. We are, for now, gathering information and have a knowledge exchange. So we are going to make it available for everyone. And please take notes of this demand for our next workshop. Maria René? Hi, everyone. How are you? I'd like to ask something. Is there anything that contemplates gender equity on advocacy? Because there are topics that we need to discuss on food production and transformation area. Do you talk about gender equity? I'm not sure. I think we are focused on a transversal way. And we talk about many topics, but I'm not sure if they've written any documents on gender issues and food security. It seems to be something very important. That I know, there isn't any documents on this, but there's a motion presented for the LAC Slow Food in the last International Congress, which is ecofeminist movement. We could made the link available on the chat with all the motions presented by LAC Slow Food Network in the last Congress. And we have Terra Madre Milestone 2022, Terra Madre Framework. And you could have comments. In the beginning was kind of a group work that we are going to move forward and keep talking about gender equity and many other topics. And if you would like to talk about something else, go ahead.
And gender is among our main axes. I have read this political documents. They are really I think she lost connection. And for the people who could not read, some people place it here in the chat. In the Latin America, I think it's important to mention that the gender theme is a strong political issue. And in Terra Madre, you organized the first feminist meeting of Slow Food Network, backed by Latin American colleagues, and it was quite an interesting meeting. There were so many women, the participation was incredible. And this theme is welcome to our group. There are so many interests from each one of you. And so if there's somebody who wants to back that and lead the movement as well, is welcome. We have so many reflection exercises and to think about where we want to be and the things we want to reach. I hope we can have these documents completed by the end of next month. We have an idea of a feminist network that something is relevant to me, and also I'm also taking care of all these interests you show to us. Thank you, Glenn, for making available the languages. And we have to be careful that these are not just statements thrown in the air, that everything we are doing here, they turn into concrete actions so that everybody can make contributions, and so that we can think of how we can put into practice these ideas, these proposals. Thank you all. Judith? Edith? I hope you are all well. I'm talking from Mexico. I'm thinking of the presentation because the times we are living, we have to think about biodiversity. We have just joined the indigenous community. But I believe the part of the access should be worked, because we are not working only about biodiversity. There are so many topics and agendas of interests. It seems that we have to talk about our territory and how we work on the territory issues. Not only now, but for the future. And I believe all this has a more political focus. But the nature cannot be isolated from that. It has to make part of it. The conservation. But this is just like an idea. Because we would like to mention not only the part of conservation or ecology, but this all has to be integrated to the political issue. That's it. Thank you. Thank you, Edith. I don't know if I have listened well. but I would like to comment that maybe on the next training session, we are gonna tackle biodiversity, cultural, biological issues, because it has to do with the humanity and protection of territories. And we are going to go deeper into the human part of diversity. Although today we are more focused on the political theme. I hope you can join us next session about biodiversity. And maybe next session will be, we tackle the themes you were saying up on the part of the territories and people. Patricio? Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for the presentations. I would like to ask about the steps, the methodological steps, and the participative planning concerning the politics. Is there any line, the method of how you plan to present the slow food actions to the community, to the government on a municipal or city level? Maybe Rubén could tell you about he told you about some actions. Yes, our urban policies, the person in charge of this is taking part of several projects. One of them is in Brussels, and we intend to organize a youngsters meeting. And one idea would be to expand this training. Maybe we could share this training with all the slow food community. We don't have like a specific action on that. We are working the abstract ideas and trying to implement them. Thank you. More than abstract, we are putting in practice without systematizing our actions. Perhaps, I don't know if there's any question. Otherwise, I will hand the floor to Sarah. That's going to do the last part before we say goodbye. Perfect. Hello, everyone. Now that we have heard about political incidents and how to apply it, we thought of this task. You are going to use the same link you used before of slido.com, so you can access it by scanning the QR code. Let's see the questions. We asked before asking the question, we would like to know if you have changed something. How would you sum up the political incidents now that you have heard about it? So we also placed the link on the chat to make it easier. The link will be the same for all questions. If possible, could you share that in the end? I have already. Yes, I have already shared that. It's on the chat. Thank you. Several actions planned for the communities to generate changes in local, regional, and global levels. Let's see if it's different from the first ones. There are several people answering the question now. a strong collective action to make improvements, relevant improvements, and generate changes. The organization efforts to implement political, private, and public policies, make changes in the decision-making, acknowledging of participation mechanism to generate changes, promoting changes for fairer actions, all actions to influence the local and regional issues, to address them, reflected or thought actions and planned in community to generate more impact. Civil society actions, looking for political changes and participating actively in the policies and political changes in the cities, states, based on human rights. Actions or proposals from groups or people to influence the topics of interest in a global, international, local level. Actors of different levels, activities in network action in order to tackle a communitary problem, and actions to change political processes. There are so many. Political incidence is a multidimensional concept that demands systematization, partnerships, and exchange of best practices, learned knowledges, influence of institutions from civil society to defend the rights and wills of community. Possibility of implementing healthy proposals and participate actively on our communities, actions taken by a group of people in a local or regional level. There are I'll read some more answers and then I'll go to the next question. Don't wait for me, go ahead. Next question is, after seeing this, do you think you have experience? Do you think you have experience in political advocacy? Let's see. This is particularly for the ones who voted no for the first time, because let's see. So now we see the percentage. I think it's similar to the first time we asked this. The next one, are you willing to organize advocacy activities in the coming year? Great. Yes, you are all in for it. Hope so. Very good. And the last one, if yes, or everyone, At what level? Global, regional, national, or local? Local, regional, all of them. That's great. Yes, we're gonna change the word. I sure hope so. Local, national, global. Very good. I think now we can close it. And I'll give the floor again to Valentina. Thank you very much, Sarah. At least we are inspired. Let's see if this will be translated in actions. And next week, we'll have another activity. We decided to do it one after the other with a short break so that we can see how we can implement everything we have heard today and reinforce the relevance of that form that Sarah shared with you. For those who want to join us so that we can make a split you in groups. And if one of you can choose a group. If not, you can choose one of us. As we'll be splitted in groups, we won't have interpreting because we cannot have that. So we are gonna work among ourselves, trying to handle the different languages. So the themes for those who haven't seen the farm yet, one is about pesticides, the other is about food culture, and there's another about interest conflict concerning the public government and food politics. I think I'm missing something. One is about the food, the indigenous. It has to do with the indigenous project. If there's anybody who is really interested, we can check how we can deal with that, but it's still missing an issue. The school cafeterias. Yes, the issue of the food at the cafeterias. Could everybody turn on the camera so that we can take a photo, if possible? Yes, that's it. Let's see if we can take a nice picture. Well, there are so many pages here. Caio is missing. He's our DJ. That's it. I would like to ask you, for the ones who selected, who were invited for the next session, and if you can't join, please let us know so that we can let other participants take part of it. So we don't have anybody out of it, right? Has anybody taken photos? Has anybody helped me to take the photos? Yes. I have taken 2. I have 1 photo. Francisco has to take one of them because he said he was going to share with me. Ready? Well, thank you for participating and for your contributions. I hope you have liked the session. And I hope we can count on you next week. Thank you to our tireless interpreters who are always with us and allow us to to hold the sessions, and to our colleagues who have recorded the sessions and supported us on the technical issues. I hope you have a great week. See you.
So
Bye-bye.